Hey everyone, this is basketball loving Dr. NBA. Today, I've got an interesting story to share with you. There are penalties in every sport in the world. If a player goes too far, they will get warned or get kicked out of the game, and the opposing team would have a chance to get more points. So the calls for penalties are an important factor when it comes to winning or losing. There are some players who use this to their advantage by diving to get calls, and those players would trick the referees as if they were Hollywood actors. In basketball, these diving actions are called flopping. In a physical battle, if one is pushed slightly, they would overreact and fall down. It's pretty much a comedy just looking at it. On that note, in today's video, I'll be talking about this Hollywood actor. His name is Marcus Smart. And different from his name, he is a one-of-a-kind trickster. Flying away after a small bump is the basics with him. And when he wasn't touched at all, he would complain about how he got hit, almost as if he was a fraud making a fake injury claim after a car accident. He was very straightforward as well. But because of his actor-like acting, this player fools most referees out there. We will see what kind of story he has to offer in this video. (1994) Lancaster, Texas, US. Marcus Smart was born. He was the youngest out of 4 brothers and was always adored by them, and learned a lot of things from his older brothers. But his family was actually quite tragic. When Smart was 9, his oldest brother he relied on had gotten leukemia and had to watch him pass away. And his mother's one kidney was starting to fail on her, so she was in a situation where she could get cancer at any moment, and he was always worried. And his older brother quit playing basketball and joined a notorious gang and got addicted to cocaine and was living on the borderline of death. And Smart, being shook by all of this and not being able to handle it, eventually took a wrong path, stealing items and getting in fights, etc. He let out all his anger by using violence and committing theft. But he showed potential in football, tennis, and basketball. And seeing her son fall apart like this, his mother gave some serious life advice to Smart. And after that, kept on guiding her son in the right path. And he left the rough neighborhood that he lived in before and moved to a brighter city, and now entering a new atmosphere without gun shootings at night. Smart was moved at his mother's devotion to help him, and stopped being a rebellious child, and started to focus on sports. To make his family's life better, he made NBA his goal, and started to play in the high school league for basketball. And after learning a few things from his brothers that all played basketball, and the experience he had from other sports, he was very noticeable compared to the other students, and started to get all the points and assists and lead the team to victory. As a result, the team's records in 3 seasons was 115 wins and 6 losses, and won the championship twice in Texas, and Smart's average was 15.1 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 5 assists. During this performance, Smart was ranked 10th in the nation, and was the first prospect for shooting guards, and was scouted by many prestigious universities. He didn't want to be separated from his family, so he went to Oklahoma State University that was close to his home. And as soon as he enrolled, he was a starting member, and had an average of 15.4 points, leading the team in points, and many NBA scouters started to show interest in him. His 3-point shot success rate wasn't very high, but he was able to shoot them. His defense and ability to drive in the transition was his pros. And with those at the end of the regular season, out of 10 schools that Oklahoma was a part of, got the Rookie of the Year award and the MVP award. And after entered the NCAA tournament, and surprisingly enough, in the first round, was eliminated. But with a regretful mind, he played in university for another year. He increased his point average and entered the NCAA tournament again, and got 23 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, and 6 steals in the first round, showing an historic performance. But in this game, they had lost and were eliminated once again. And with the responsibility of his family, Smart did not waste any more time and entered the 2014 NBA Draft. And there, he was fortunately picked out of 60 players, 6 by the Boston Celtics in the NBA Draft. Taking the position of point guard, Smart would start the 14-15 season as a bench member and showed quite the impressive performance. Because his shot wasn't precise, there was not much expected of him on offense, but his defense was amazing even compared to veterans, and so got the hot spotlight from the head coach and the fans. He especially showed confidence when it came to steals. When he saw a small space opening with opponents dribbling or shooting, he would risk taking a foul and take the ball very quickly and aggressively. With a vigorous activity and animal senses, he would even stop passing paths. His height was only 6'3", and it was expected that he would be pushed around by bigger and taller players. But with his wingspan being over 6'9", having an unusual body structure, and being 220 pounds, built by muscle and being fit, it was easier for him to take down players that are the same position as him, and even held his ground against many big men in the league as well. And his strength was strong enough to take on slam dunks coming down the court at full speed. And maybe because of his football days in the past, his steals he would make during the games and his physical battles that he would never quit on really seemed to make him look like a beast. And when it came to hustle play, when throwing his body around for the ball, legendary players even acknowledged him as well. And it wasn't just his dangerous tactics and great physique that he had, but he was also able to predict the opponent's movements very well, showing great basketball IQ in tight situations. And when it came to opponents that didn't slow down at full speed and stepped into a shot, Smart would keep both feet firmly planted on the ground and invited in collision at any moment. And so, the opponent would show aggression if the defender is standing still like that, which would lead to a lost chance by getting an offensive foul. Smart would enjoy these calls a lot. But because of his rough childhood, maybe he had the mindset to do anything he had to do in order to win, and as a result, he would cross that line. By lying to get a foul call, like a Hollywood action scene. In basketball, this would be called flopping, and Marcus Smart was one of the best frauds when it came to this category. He knew all the physical rhythms of his opponent. Especially in physical battles, he would time the pushing of his opponent perfectly and act like he was pushed back. It was so realistic that he could have gotten an Oscar for that. In any situation where he believed that there was the slightest contact, he would start wobbling around and getting offensive fouls from this. The opposing players were left in confusion. And even when there was no contact at all, with his dynamic vision and reflexes he obtained while fighting as a kid, he would convince the ref that it was indeed a foul. And so, after lying on and on in that direction, the ref started to take caution when he was playing. But Marcus Smart's flopping was way faster than sight, and so he succeeded more than he failed.
No! God, please, no!
And sometimes, when he really went over the top, when the ref wasn't noticing, with the slightest touch, he would suddenly fly away, and even sometimes would flop around like a blue marlin and shake his body around like crazy. And whenever that happened, the fans and the head coach's face showed how much they didn't understand why he was doing those things. And aside from this, Smart screwed up many times in the team. He had purposely hit opponents in private areas, or slept in and was late to a playoff game before. Or he flipped off the fans in the middle of the game and was fined for that action. And he had a hot temper, so Smart would get in fights with opponents a lot. One day, when he was too overconfident in 4 shot attempts and failed, and with the guilt of losing the game, because of him, he broke a picture frame inside the hotel with his fist, and he cut himself from that and missed the next 11 games because so. The head coach was left disappointed many times because of his actions. And when on offense, Smart would shoot blindly with the greed for offense. Boston was left frustrated and tried many times to trade him to a different team. And he wasn't getting better, but his passion on defense was one of the best out of all the point guards. So, the head coach gave him a lot of playing time nevertheless. But in his fourth year, in the 17-18 season, Boston's key player was injured and could not play the rest of the games. And so, the light had shined on Marcus Smart and the other young players' performances. And as a result, the team came second in the Eastern Conference and made it to the playoffs, and surprisingly won the first and second round, and made it to the third round to decide the Eastern Conference champions. And that's when they met the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by superstar LeBron James. In his first and third year in the playoffs, Smart had experience on getting eliminated by LeBron in the playoffs and didn't want to lose another opportunity, so he played like it was his last game ever. Even though he had a size difference with LeBron and he knew he couldn't stop LeBron's shots completely, he didn't shy down from this at all, and when LeBron wasn't paying attention, he tried many times to steal the ball and use his body in any way to retrieve the ball, and reached out a bit more to get the pass to his teammates. And when opponents showed plays of almost injuring his teammates, Smart was the first one to stick up for them and fight for them. And the Boston players would be more motivated by Smart's devotion to the team, and won both games in the first and second game. And after that, in the away games, Smart would keep blocking LeBron by blocking and stealing from him. But LeBron James wasn't bothered at all and poured on the offense, and as a result, he got 27 and 44 points and won the third and fourth game. And after that, Boston and Cleveland both took a win each and was left in the seventh final game. In a press interview before the game, Smart was showing blood in his mouth as if he was ready to get in a dogfight, and he said he would win no matter what. And with that mindset of winning at any cost, he had no turnovers and 7 assists, and at the same time showed great acting and also flops, and succeeded in getting LeBron to get offensive fouls. As a result, Boston had started to heat up from that, and his teammates started to pour down on points. But, unfortunately, Marcus Smart's greed had suddenly came back out of nowhere, and the fans were praying and begging for him not to shoot. But he shot 10 and failed 9 times, and was taken down by LeBron's 35 points, and once again was eliminated. He did have confidence in his 3-point shots, and a lot of shots were attempted, but his success rate was only at 30%. And the fans, seeing him fail like that so many times, they were left burnt inside. But the fans couldn't dislike Smart. And one of the reasons why was because he would use his whole body in any way on defense, showing great results. And when it came to offense, he had decent passing for a point guard. And he was pretty jacked physically. And he was able to take on big men. And also had fast speed that could drive well, showing decent performances when it came to getting points and assists. And because of this, Smart was able to re-sign with the Boston Celtics, and plus that, in the beginning of the 18-19 season, he was given a starting position on the team. And from there, his 3-point shot success rate rose, and finally his field goal shot success rate was at 42%, and his 3-point shot success rate was at 36%. And not like before, he was a pretty good offensive player as well. And now being in his prime for defense, out of all the NBA guards that were playing, he had the honor of being picked as the top 2 on defense. With his ability to not be stopped on screens while on defense, and with his focus, and with the mindset of not giving up offensive chances even if he gets hurt. In the current 19-20 season, he is a great help to the Boston Celtics. If Smart was to be compared to anyone else, the first person that comes to mind is Patrick Beverley from the LA Clippers. Recently, these two players were asked who had more passion on defense and who was higher than the other. And Beverley responded by saying, "You're kidding, right?" And Marcus Smart responded by saying, Beverly and I are in a different level, showing a bit of a rivalry starting between them. Of course, they're both great on defense, but I personally vote for Smart. Okay, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching and I'll be back with better content next time. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe.